Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to talk about Poa Annua, or Poa. Now this is a very rough weed to deal with because it does not germinate the same time as others. How you want to avoid it? Stay tuned and you'll find out. Welcome back and thank you for joining me for once again another lawn care video. This is Mike with Jealous Lawn Care, and today we're going to talk about Poa Annua. It's a grassy weed. Alright, so first things first, let's get started and figure out what Poa actually looks like. I'll show you a little clip from earlier this year when Poa actually shows itself, when it's most commonly viewed. Now what does it look like? It looks like tall grass, just like normal grass, except it has these white seed heads on top. And no, these are not grass seeds. They're the grassy weed seeds. So it is possible that they germinate and spread if you do not catch them in time. So watch this video real quick and you'll see all about what Poa looks like in the springtime. Alright, so first step, what is Poa Annua? This is what it'll look like. Looks like a bunch of seed heads on real tall grass. Can you tell? It's blowing in the wind, but that is it. So that is it right there. And they love to spread. And these can lay dormant in your grass for several years. So best time to treat this is in the fall and in the spring. So I had this issue in the past in the backyard, roughly over there somewhere. I basically spot treated it as needed as it comes up because I don't want to put too much chemicals down, because as you've seen in my prior videos, I'm not a big fan of doing the liquid chemicals. I like to do just a granular form. It's easy, it's goof proof, just a lot easier, but to each his own. You can tell a whole bunch of Poa Annua and also a patch over here, big patch. So it grows, and then when you cut the grass, all those seedlings on the top will basically go back into the ground, reproduce more. None of the Weed Be Gone products will kill it. Sure, Roundup will, but Roundup will kill anything. All your grass will be dead too, so don't use that. I'll put a link in the description below, right down there, as far as what the product is that I'm going to be using and how often we'll be applying it. So basically you want to apply this in spring and in fall. Do this for several years, and then after then you should have the problem halted. So this is actually not that bad of a problem to have, besides being a little ugly. You know, it's basically makes your lawn, instead of being green, it's going to look more white, and just the tops, because the seed head, the top of the seed heads are actually whitish, so you'll lose that greenish appearance. But this will only happen in the late springtime. So you know, if you want to treat it, you could treat it. It's up to you guys. But it will go away on its own during the summertime. Alright? So I just wanted to show you also one of the reasons why this is so hard to catch early, and if you wait, you might be too late. So this is what it looks like. So from the roots up, it just looks like normal blade of grass, right? And then, so this is kind of the pre-coming out stage, we'll call it. And see how it basically splits right here? It splits, and then once the seeds are ready to come out, it opens up this, it's hard to do this with one hand, so it basically splits in half and then opens up into the after effect. And you can see in the past where this split already and broke off right there. So this is the after effect. Much uglier than just basically a blade of grass. If you have this coming up and you don't have the pre-emergent or post-emergent, so you can already tell that I already mowed the lawn in all the surrounding area where I don't have any Poa Annua problem, because I like to mow bagless. I don't like to put the bag on unless there's a reason to, maybe too much leaves or some kind of disease problem. And this you're basically going to treat like there's a disease problem. So in this case, you want to bag it so you can get rid of all these seed stalks and put that in the bag and then throw it out, because you don't want this to spread. So don't want it to get any worse, especially if you're treating it, if you care enough. Welcome back once again, everybody. Now that you've viewed what Poa in its full form looks like in the springtime, now I'll show you what it looks like in September. There's a patch over here. You can't really tell too great because it's kind of blending in with my striping feature here. So if you can tell, there's a lot of brown grass mixed in with the green grass, and all this brown grass is actually Poa that died off. So now the question is, why is it brown? So one of the basic fundamentals about Poa is Poa cannot handle drought or heat. So it needs water to survive or thrive, and it also cannot handle the summer weather temperatures. You know, once it gets past 80, 80, 90 degrees for a week, 2 weeks, you'll start seeing that Poa eliminate on its own. However, it's very easy for Poa to spread. Anytime you see Poa with those grass seeds that are white on top, make sure that you are bagging it, because otherwise they will spread. Alright, so do not chop them up on a lawnmower. Make sure you bag it and throw it out. One of the few times I ever recommend bagging. That's one instance. Lawn fugginses are a second instance where I bag. Now a lot of you are probably thinking, hey, it's not a big deal that this Poa shows itself in April, May, and then gets rid of itself, basically fixes itself from a viewing standpoint in the summertime when the heat arrives. Thank you for interrupting my video, loud car. So, but the problem is, that's not the end of the Poa. The Poa will regerminate, and the problem why this weed comes up is because of the fact that it germinates not in, you know, springtime like all the other weeds do, like all the broadleaf weeds, which our weed prevention is targeting. So the big problem about Poa is that it germinates not in the springtime like most other broadleaf weeds that you see in your yard, like dandelions and such, but it germinates in the fall. So this is why you see it in a lot of places, a lot of yards, your yard, you know, grassy fields, anywhere. And it looks, when it's growing, you can barely tell the difference between Poa and your normal, let's just say, Kentucky bluegrass or perennial rye, whatever. So it looks just like it. One of the best ways that I've seen where you can tell what Poa is, assuming there's no seed heads, that's just a given. It's the most obvious way to look at it. So I pulled this out so you can see exactly how thick this is. Or if you can't, I mean, it's almost like a little tree. It's pretty thick, much thicker than a blade of grass. You can actually, not sure if you can hear it, but you can actually hear it crinkling and crunching. Normal grass, even when it's dead, won't do that. It's not thick enough to do that. So that's the easiest way. So I mean, we can go through and pick a whole bunch in my yard that's left over from the Poa Annua, but I don't really care. I'm about to do my dethatching in the fall anyways, so it's all going to come up anyways because it's dead. And that's why I don't really care too much. So you're probably thinking, Mike, why would you have Poa Annua problems? This is the interesting story. So every year, you guys all follow my lawn care videos and recommended lawn care plan scheduling. So one of the things I did this year is I skipped my crabgrass pre-emergent. That is what targets Poa Annua when used at the right time. I wanted to see if I needed to do this continually year after year or not, because the interesting thing about Poa is that it can live into the ground for several years, and it will only germinate, like I said, in the fall. It germinates in the fall, shows itself in the springtime. Problem is, you don't know, do you need to keep using it because has it been a couple years and you don't need it? Meaning, have you completely eradicated it from your soil base? Or will there, we'll just call it seeds or leftovers, be under there still waiting for itself for 1 year when you do not use that pre-emergent, like what you see here? So obviously I still have to use this every year, and that's what I'm going to be doing today. So if you have this coming up and you're looking at this video in springtime, and you have those white seed heads like I showed you earlier in the video, not a big deal. It'll eliminate itself for the season. It's not really worth fighting it and trying to control it at the same time as it's coming up. Just make sure you bag it, and in the fall, make sure that you put down your pre-emergent. This will eliminate the whole situation of any more POA issues for next spring. And you're going to have to do this year after year after year. I would say probably after about 5 years, then you can try and skip an ep, see how next spring comes. Skip the ep in fall, and then next spring, see if you have that problem again. If you do, then hey, you're not eradicated your situation, your problem yet, just like me. So what do I recommend using for this pre-emergent? What I use every year is the Halts Crabgrass and Grassy weed pre-emergent. But since I'm basically emptied in the bag and not enough in my full yard, I'm a little lazy. I don't feel like going to the store today. This, also Halts Turf Builder, Halts Crabgrass, with some fertilizer in it. It's got that lawn food already in it. Later on in the fall, about a month from now, after I use this, I'll be doing my aeration and seeding, and also putting down starter fertilizer, and of course, your friend and mine, Milorganite. I might mix it up and do a little ringer, like I usually do in the fall. As you guys know, I do like to mix in ringer in my fall applications instead of Milo, just because of the fact that I want even more root growth, and that's one of the things I'm going to be starting to target more often, is my root growth. Alright, welcome back to a few weeks later. So I changed my mind a little bit in this video, so sorry to steer you in a little bit in the wrong direction about what I'm doing this year as far as my timing. So I waited until after my aeration and seeding for the seed all to grow at proper height, and now I'm going through and doing my POA or crabgrass pre-emergent for getting rid of Poa Annua, because I had a little problem with that in a few different spots in my lawn this year. So now it's middle to end of October, closer to the end of October, and now I'm going to be putting down this pre-emergent. Alright, so I showed you earlier you can put down two different types, one with fertilizer. If you want to use the Halts one with fertilizer, you can use the Halts one without fertilizer, which is just Halts Halt. So that's what I usually use every year. I'm putting down a little bit of fertilizer this time. So you can try out either one you want. If your grass needs a little fertilizer, last boost of greenness for the year, then go ahead and get the Halts or Halts Crabgrass with the fertilizer in it, or just go with the non-fertilizer side, and you probably save a little bit of money in my opinion. So whichever you choose. So here I am. Now I'm going to put it through and do my last strip. So they recommend watering it 2 to 3 days afterwards. You don't immediately have to water as soon as you put it down, but you don't want to make sure that it blows away or something like that. So just give it a quick watering if you want. Or for me, I'm just going to let the rain do it itself, because we're supposed to get some rain either tomorrow or the next day, or both. You never will know with weather, right? So that is about it. So this should fix my Poa Annua for next year, as it has in the past. Last year I got lazy, like I said earlier in this video, and didn't put it down last year at this time. So make sure this is a fall pre-emergent for spring Poa Annua. Alright, and if you have any questions, leave me something in the comments below. Hopefully it's helped you out, and love to do these videos for you guys, everybody.